Have you ever wondered what happens to movie cars after filming wraps? Most end up in museums, private collections, or studio warehouses, but some, they just vanish. Stolen. Gone without a trace. These aren't replicas sitting in Planet Hollywood. These are the actual cars that raced across our screens, pursued by cameras and stunt drivers. Today we're counting down 10 legendary movie cars that were stolen and never recovered. From underground racing legends to apocalyptic interceptors, these machines disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind only tire marks and unanswered questions. So buckle up and hit that subscribe button, because this ride gets wild. Number 10. The Blues Brothers Dodge Monaco. In 1980, John Landis destroyed 103 cars filming the Blues Brothers. That's still a world record. Police cars, mall security vehicles, random sedans, they all got demolished in the name of comedy. The production used dozens of Dodge Monacos as police cruisers, and most ended up exactly where you'd expect. Crushed, scrapped, recycled into beer cans. But here's where it gets interesting. After filming Wrapped, the surviving cars were supposed to go to an impound lot in Chicago. Standard procedure. The studio would auction them off or send them to junkyards. Except one Monaco never made it to auction. It vanished from that impound lot sometime in late 1980. Then, now you might think, who cares? It's just another beat-up cop car. But this wasn't just any Monaco. According to production records, this particular car was used in multiple chase sequences. It survived crashes that destroyed 3 other vehicles. The stunt drivers nicknamed it Your Lucky 7 because of its car number and its ability to keep running no matter what they threw at it. The theft was discovered 3 weeks after filming ended. The lot security guard claimed he never saw anything suspicious. The Chicago PD investigated briefly but concluded it was probably sold for scrap by someone with inside knowledge. They figured some lot employee made a quick buck selling it to a chop shop, and again, but here's the thing. In 1998, a former Blues Brothers stunt driver named Mike Ryan swore he saw that exact car at an underground car meet in Detroit. Same dents, same custom roll cage, same number 7 barely visible under layers of black paint. By the time he got close enough to verify, the driver had vanished into the night. The car hasn't been seen since. Some collectors believe it's sitting in a barn somewhere, waiting to be discovered. Others think it was stripped for parts decades ago. The studio's insurance company paid out $3,500 for the loss. Today, an authenticated Blues Brothers police car sells for over $50,000 at auction. Number 9. Christine Plymouth Fury. Promotional car. Stephen King's Christine required 23 Plymouth Furies to tell the story of a possessed car that rebuilds itself and murders teenagers. Most were destroyed during filming. That was the whole point. But Columbia Pictures commissioned 3 additional cars that never appeared on screen. These were the promotional vehicles sent around the country to generate buzz before the movie's December 1983 release. Donham 1 toured the East Coast. Another hit the Midwest. The third covered California and the Southwest. They appeared at horror conventions, drive-in theaters, and shopping malls. Kids would pay $1 to sit behind the wheel while their parents snapped Polaroids. The cars were identical to the hero car. Same autumn red paint, same white walls, same sinister chrome grille. Dot 10. The West Coast promotional car disappeared on November 28, 1983. 3 weeks before the movie premiered, it was being displayed at the Del Amo Fashion Center in Torrance, California. The mall was packed with holiday shoppers. The car sat on a platform near the food court surrounded by movie posters and a velvet rope. At its Tatooine AE 6 p.m., the display supervisor went on his dinner break. When he returned 45 minutes later, the car was gone. The platform was empty. The velvet ropes were neatly coiled in a corner. Nobody saw anything, or at least nobody admitted to seeing anything. Unsaid mall security footage was useless. The cameras covering that section had mysteriously malfunctioned that day. The Torrance Police Department investigated but found no leads. The car had simply vanished from a crowded mall in broad daylight, on Columbia. Pictures offered a $5,000 reward. Nothing. They hired a private investigator who specialized in stolen movie memorabilia. He found nothing. The insurance company concluded it was an inside job, probably orchestrated by someone familiar with the promotional tour schedule. And 2 years later, a mechanic in Riverside claimed a customer brought in a '58 Fury that matched the stolen car's description. Same color, same interior, even had what looked like mounting brackets for promotional signage. But when he called the police, they said without a VIN number, they couldn't do anything. The customer never returned. Some Christine fans believe the car is still out there, hidden in a private collection. Others joke that it drove itself away, just like in the movie. The other two promotional cars were destroyed in a warehouse fire in 1991. If the stolen car still exists, it's the only surviving promotional Christine in the world. Number 8. Smokey and the Bandit Trans. And backup car. 1977. Burt Reynolds was the biggest star in Hollywood. Smokey and the Bandit was the second highest grossing film of the year, right behind Star Wars. And everyone wanted that black Trans Am with the gold Firebird on the hood. Pontiac couldn't build them fast enough. The production actually used 5 Trans Ams during filming. 3 were destroyed. 1 became Burt Reynolds' personal car. The 5th was the backup, used for establishing shots and close-ups when the hero car was being repaired. This backup car had something special, a modified suspension system that made it corner like a race car. After filming wrapped in Georgia, the backup Trans Am was supposed to be shipped back to Universal Studios in California. It never arrived. Somewhere between Atlanta and Los Angeles, the car vanished. The transport truck arrived at Universal with an empty car carrier. The driver claimed he'd stopped for gas in Texas and the car was there. Next stop, Arizona, it was gone. The investigation was a mess. The transport company blamed the driver. The driver blamed highway thieves. Universal blamed everyone. The insurance company suspected fraud, but couldn't prove it. The car was written off as a total loss. Here's where it gets weird. In 1985, a Texas Highway Patrol officer pulled over a black Trans Am for speeding outside El Paso. The car matched the description of the stolen Bandit car perfectly. Same modifications, same wear patterns on the interior, but the VIN had been altered. Before he could investigate further, his captain ordered him to drop it. The driver was released. No record of the stop exists in official files. The officer, now retired, still swears it was the missing Bandit car. He says the driver was a woman in her 30s who claimed she'd bought it from a used car lot in Mexico. She had paperwork, but he never got to examine it closely. His theory? Someone with connections made that investigation disappear as quickly as the car itself. And Universal's insurance records show they were paid $42,000 for the loss. Today, an authenticated Smokey and the Bandit Trans Am is worth over $500,000. If that backup car is still out there, someone's sitting on a gold mine. Or they're driving it on back roads somewhere, staying just ahead of the law. Kind of poetic when you think about it. Number 7. Back to the Future. DeLorean Stunt. Universal Studios built 7 DeLoreans for Back to the Future. 3 were fully functional hero cars. The others were specialized. 1 for interior shots, 1 for effects work, and 2 lightweight fiberglass shells for stunts. These shells were important. In October 1985, 3 months after the movie premiered, one of these stunt shells disappeared from the Universal backlot. It wasn't even supposed to be there. The production team had moved it to a temporary storage area behind the New York street set while they decided what to do with it. When they came back 2 weeks later, it was gone. Neon security footage showed nothing useful. The backlot had dozens of entry points back then. Anyone with a studio pass could access that area. The shell was light enough that 4 people could lift it onto a truck, no special equipment needed, no witnesses. Just an empty space where a piece of movie history used to be. The studio didn't even report it stolen immediately. They assumed someone had moved it to another storage area. It took 3 weeks of searching before they accepted it was actually gone. By then, the trail was ice cold. The LAPD took a report but told Universal straight up. Without real leads, finding a fiberglass movie prop in Los Angeles was impossible. And in him, but here's what makes this theft special. That particular shell had been used for the mall parking lot scenes. The ones where the DeLorean hits 88 miles per hour for the first time. It had scorch marks from the fire trails. It had mounting points for the cameras that filmed the wheels rotating horizontal. It was a piece of practical effects history. In 1999, a collector in Japan claimed he'd been offered a Back to the Future DeLorean shell by a dealer in Thailand. The price was $200,000. He asked for authentication and never heard from the dealer again. Universal investigated, but found no evidence the shell had left the country. The other stunt shell was destroyed during filming of Part 3. If the stolen one still exists, it's the only remaining lightweight DeLorean from the original film. Some prop collectors believe it's in a warehouse in Los Angeles, hidden among thousands of other movie artifacts. Others think it was chopped up and sold piece by piece to fans who don't even know what they own. Number 6. Knight Rider. KITT. Prototype. Before David Hasselhoff talked to his car, before KITT became the most famous Trans Am on television, there were test vehicles. Universal built several prototype kits in early 1982 to figure out the look and the gadgets. These weren't the hero cars you saw on screen. These were the experiments. Detail went some near one prototype was special. It had an early version of the scanner light that wasn't quite right. The red moved too fast, creating an aggressive strobe effect the producers ultimately rejected. It had a different dashboard layout. The steering wheel was from a Corvette. This car was Knight Rider before Knight Rider knew what it wanted to be. The prototype was supposed to be destroyed after the hero cars were built. Standard practice. You don't want inferior versions floating around confusing things. But someone at Universal thought it might be worth keeping for the studio tour. So it went into storage on the back lot, Building 24, Section C. That's where it stayed for 6 months. Then one morning in March 1983, it wasn't there anymore. The lock on the storage facility hadn't been broken. The security guard hadn't seen anything unusual. The car had simply vanished overnight, like it drove itself out, which, given what KITT could do on the show, led to some pretty obvious jokes around the studio. And the weird part, 2 other cars in that same storage facility were untouched, including a hero car from the A-Team that was worth significantly more. Whoever took the KITT prototype knew exactly what they wanted. This wasn't a random theft, this was targeted. In Universal kept the theft quiet for years. They didn't want the bad publicity while Knight Rider was still on the air. The insurance claim listed it as a Bodder production vehicle, experimental dart, value $18,000. But here's the thing, that prototype had something none of the other KITT cars had. Handwritten notes from the designers were still in the glove compartment, sketches of features that never made it to the show. In 2007, a Trans Am that looked suspiciously like the missing prototype appeared on a Russian automotive website. Same wrong scanner pattern, same Corvette steering wheel. The seller wanted 300,000 euros. When American collectors reached out, the listing disappeared. The site administrators claimed they had no record of it ever existing. The prototype has never surfaced publicly. If it still exists, it represents the birth of one of television's most iconic cars. It's the rough draft of KITT. And someone, somewhere, might have it parked in their garage, that too-fast scanner still sweeping back and forth in the dark. Number 5, the Italian Job Mini Cooper. The 1969 Italian Job destroyed everything. Buildings, buses, Alfa Romeos, and of course Mini Coopers. Lots of Mini Coopers. The production used 32 Minis total. Most were written off during that legendary chase through Turin, but a handful survived and they became instantly collectible. After filming ended, the surviving Minis were stored in a warehouse outside Rome, while the production company figured out what to do with them. 6 cars made it through filming intact enough to be worth keeping. 3 were shipped back to England, 2 went to private collectors who'd helped finance the film. The 6th Mini stayed in Italy, and that was the mistake. Italy in 1969 wasn't exactly the safest place to store valuable property. The warehouse had minimal security, just a chain link fence and a sleepy guard who was more interested in his newspaper than watching cars. On November 3rd, the guard showed up for a shift to find the fence cut and the Mini gone. The police investigation went nowhere. The warehouse was in an industrial area with no witnesses. The guard hadn't noticed anything unusual the night before. The Mini had simply vanished into the Italian night. Some investigators suspected it was an inside job. The guard knew exactly when to look the other way. But here's what makes this theft particularly brazen. This wasn't just any Mini. This was the car Michael Caine drove in several key scenes. It had camera mounts welded to the hood. It had a modified fuel system for the tunnel sequences. It had the actual registration plate from filming, HMP 729G. This was a piece of cinema history. The production company offered a reward of 5 million lire, about $8,000 at the time. Nobody came forward. The Italian police concluded the car had been stripped for parts or shipped out of the country. Case closed. Except it wasn't closed. Not really. In 1998, a British collector visiting a classic car show in Switzerland swore he saw the stolen Mini. Same plates, same camera mounts, same red leather seats with that distinctive wear pattern on the driver's side. But when he returned with documentation to prove it was stolen, the car had vanished. The show organizers claimed no Mini with that description had been displayed. Darden and some Italian job enthusiasts believe the car is still in Italy, hidden in someone's private collection. Others think it was destroyed decades ago. The production company's insurance paid out £12,000 for the loss. Today, an authenticated Italian Job Mini sells for over £200,000 at auction. If that stolen car ever surfaces, it'll cause a sensation. Number 4. Bullitt Mustang Test. Mule. Everyone knows about the two hero Mustangs from Bullitt. One was hidden in a Tennessee barn for 40 years, the other was supposedly scrapped in Mexico, but there was a third Mustang that most people don't know about, the Test Mule. And its story is even stranger, and before Steve McQueen ever touched a steering wheel, before they filmed a single frame of that legendary chase, the production needed to figure out the route. They needed to test camera angles, check sight lines, calculate speeds. For this, they used a pre-production Mustang, Highland green, just like the hero cars, but with a stock engine and suspension. This test car spent 3 weeks being thrashed around San Francisco in early 1968. Stunt drivers used it to map out the chase sequence. Camera crews used it to plan their shots. It jumped the same hills. It power slid the same corners. By the time testing was done, this Mustang had essentially performed the entire chase sequence multiple times. Then, the test mule was supposed to be returned to Ford after filming. That was the deal. Ford provided cars, the studio returned them or paid for them. But this particular Mustang never made it back to Dearborn. It disappeared from the Warner Brothers lot in April 1968, 2 months before the movie premiered. The theft was discovered during a routine inventory. The studio lot had hundreds of cars. Nobody noticed one missing Mustang for almost 2 weeks. By then, it could have been anywhere. The LAPD investigated half-heartedly. Another stolen car in Los Angeles. They had bigger problems in 1968, and Warner Brothers told Ford the car had been stolen. Ford told Warner Brothers to pay for it. Lawyers got involved. Eventually, the studio's insurance company paid Ford $14,000 and everyone moved on. Except the car was never found. Never. And this wasn't some random Mustang. This car had history. According to a cameraman who worked on Bullitt, that test mule had something special. Steve McQueen had actually driven it during early rehearsals. He'd signed the sun visor. He'd left notes about the car's handling in the glove compartment. If true, that signature alone would make the car worth millions today. In 2003, a Mustang matching the test mule's description appeared in background footage from a car show in Mexico City. Highland green, correct year, California plates from the right era. But when investigators tried to track it down, they hit dead ends. The show had no record of that car being registered. The footage was too grainy to read the plate numbers. And the test mule remains missing. If it still exists, it's the secret third Bullitt Mustang. The one that did all the work before the cameras were rolling. The one with Steve McQueen's signature hidden under a sun visor. Assuming, of course, that signature story is true. Number 3, Mad Max Interceptor Stunt Car. The 1979 Mad Max turned a modified Ford Falcon into an apocalyptic icon. That black pursuit special with its exposed supercharger became one of cinema's most recognizable cars. The production built several Interceptors, and most people know what happened to them. One's in a museum, one's in a private collection. But there's one that vanished. This was an early stunt car, built before they'd finalized the Interceptor's look. It had the supercharger, the side pipes, the black paint. But details were different. The nose cone was fiberglass instead of steel. The rear spoiler was mounted 2 inches higher. These were subtle differences, but they mattered to collectors. After filming wrapped in Australia, this particular stunt car was sold to a crew member for $800 Australian dollars. He kept it for 2 years, then sold it to a used car dealer in Melbourne who specialized in movie cars. The dealer displayed it in his showroom with photos from the film. It was a legitimate piece of Mad Max history. Then, in September 1982, the car disappeared. The dealer arrived one morning to find his showroom window smashed and the Interceptor gone, but here's the strange part. The thieves had ignored 2 other valuable cars. A Porsche 911, a restored Monero. They only wanted the Interceptor. The Melbourne police investigated aggressively. Mad Max was Australia's biggest film export. The theft made national news. They set up roadblocks. They checked every shipping container leaving the country. They found nothing. The car had vanished into the outback, or onto a boat, or into a crusher. Nobody knew. But the dealer had a theory. 3 days before the theft, an American had visited his showroom. The guy knew everything about the Interceptor. He knew which scenes it appeared in. He knew about the fiberglass nose cone. He asked detailed questions about the car's history. Then he left without making an offer. The dealer never got his name to hand. 1995, a documentary filmmaker researching Mad Max claimed he'd found evidence of the stolen Interceptor in Japan. A collector in Osaka supposedly had a pursuit special with the exact modifications of the missing stunt car. But when the filmmaker tried to follow up, the collector denied owning any Mad Max vehicles. The trail went cold, and some Mad Max enthusiasts believe the car was destroyed in a street racing accident in the mid-'80s. Others think it's in the Middle East. part of some oil sheikh's collection. The original dealer, now in his 80s, still believes that American took his car. He spent 40 years wondering who that man was and where his Interceptor ended up. The insurance company paid out 12,000 Australian dollars. Today, even a replica Interceptor sells for over 100,000. An authentic stunt car from the original Mad Max, it would be priceless, if it still exists, if it hasn't been crushed, crashed, or buried in the desert somewhere. Number 2, Gone in 60 Seconds. Eleanor Mustang. Replica. The 2000 remake of Gone in 60 Seconds created an instant icon. Eleanor. That customized 1967 Shelby GT 500 in DuPont pepper gray with black racing stripes. 11 Eleanors were built for filming. 7 survived. And they became some of the most valuable movie cars in existence. But one Eleanor has a different story. This wasn't technically a hero car. It was a high-quality replica built for promotional events before the movie's release. Cinema Vehicle Services created it to the exact specifications of the film cars. Same body kit, same paint code, same interior. From 10 feet away, even experts couldn't tell the difference from the hero cars. In May 2000, this promotional Eleanor was being transported from a car show in Phoenix to another event in Dallas. The transport truck stopped overnight at a truck stop near Albuquerque, high security lot, 24-hour surveillance, guards at the gate. Should have been safe. The driver woke up the next morning to find his trailer doors open and Eleanor gone. The locks had been cut with professional tools. The security cameras covering that section of the lot had been spray painted black. The guards hadn't seen or heard anything. This wasn't a random theft, this was a professional crew who knew exactly what they were looking for. The FBI got involved immediately. Interstate auto theft of a vehicle worth over $500,000 gets federal attention. They found evidence of a sophisticated operation. The thieves had disabled the trailer's GPS tracker. They'd used signal jammers to block cell phones in the area. They'd even left false tire tracks leading in the wrong direction. The investigation led nowhere. Every lead dried up. The car had vanished without a trace. The insurance company suspected it had been stolen to order for a collector who wanted an Eleanor but couldn't afford auction prices. They paid out $550,000 and closed the file. But here's the twist. In 2006, a mechanic in Houston was hired to work on a collection of movie cars in a private warehouse. One car caught his attention, a 67 Mustang that looked exactly like Eleanor, but the owner insisted it was just a tribute build, not a real movie car. The mechanic noticed something odd, though. This Intributor had mounting points for camera equipment. It had wear patterns consistent with promotional display use. The mechanic took photos and contacted a movie car authentication expert. Before the expert could investigate, the mechanic was told his services were no longer needed. When investigators tried to follow up, the warehouse owner claimed no such car existed in his collection. The mechanic's photos mysteriously corrupted. Digital files can do that sometimes. The promotional Eleanor remains missing. If it ever surfaces with proper documentation, it's worth over $1 million. Without documentation, it's just another replica in a world full of Eleanor clones. That's the perfect crime, really. Steal something so widely copied that the original can hide in plain sight. Number 1. The Fast and the Furious Hero. Supra. This is the big one. The holy grail of stolen movie cars. One of the actual orange Toyota Supras driven by Paul Walker in the original Fast and the Furious. Not a stunt car, not a replica. The hero car that appeared in the final race against Dominic Toretto's Charger. The production built 8 Supras for the film. Each had different modifications for different purposes. The hero car was special. It had the complete Bomex body kit, the APR wing, the custom graphics by Mike Livery with the nuclear gladiatori scenes design. Most importantly, it had the internal camera mounts Paul Walker used for his close-ups. After filming wrapped in 2000, this Supra was supposed to go to Universal's archive. Instead, it was temporarily stored at a warehouse in San Fernando Valley while the studio decided whether to keep it or sell it. High-value cars from recent productions were kept there all the time. The security was considered excellent. Known. January 15, 2001, 6 months before the movie became a massive hit, the Supra disappeared. But this wasn't a smash and grab. The thieves had keys. They had the alarm codes. They drove the Supra out the front gate at 2 a.m., and the security system recorded it as an authorized exit. Someone on the inside had orchestrated this. The investigation revealed a sophisticated conspiracy. The security footage had been professionally edited. Not erased, edited. The guard log had been altered to show a scheduled pickup that never existed. Whoever did this had intimate knowledge of Universal's storage procedures. The FBI investigated for 2 years, they found nothing. Here's where it gets really interesting. The Supra community is obsessive about documentation. They track every modified Supra in existence. In 2003, a member of a Supra forum claimed he'd seen the stolen hero car at an underground meet in Japan. Orange paint, Bomex kit, graphics by Mike Livery. But something was different. The Nuclear Gladiator graphics had been changed to Japanese characters. He managed to get one photo before security chased him off. The photo showed a car that could be the hero Supra, or it could be one of hundreds of replicas built after the movie's success. Without the VN, without examining the internal modifications, it's impossible to know. The photo still circulates on Supra forums. True or false? Nobody knows. In 2008, a documentary filmmaker received an anonymous tip. The hero Supra was in a private collection in the United Arab Emirates. The owner supposedly paid $3 million for it through black market channels. The filmmaker spent 6 months trying to verify this. He found nothing concrete, just rumors and dead ends. Dintan Universal's insurance company paid out $400,000 for the loss. After the Fast and Furious franchise exploded, that same car would be worth over $5 million, maybe more. It represents the beginning of a billion-dollar franchise. It's the car that launched 1,000 street races, and it's gone. Some investigators believe the Supra was immediately shipped to Japan and integrated into the tuner scene. Others think it's in the Middle East or Eastern Europe, hidden in some oligarch's garage. The most depressing theory, it was stolen by someone who didn't realize its value and it ended up crushed or parted out before the movie even premiered. I know at the end, NM Paul Walker himself once said he hoped the car was out there somewhere being driven hard by someone who loved it. That's a nice thought. The hero Supra, living its best life, hitting apex after apex on some mountain road, its new owner having no idea they're driving a piece of cinema history. And there you have it, that's 10 movie cars that were stolen and never recovered. From comedy classics to action icons, these machines vanished into the night, leaving only mystery behind. Which one do you think is still out there? And more importantly, would you turn it in if you found it in your neighbor's garage? Let us know in the comments below. And hey, if you enjoyed this walk through Hollywood's most wanted list, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about the cars that made movie history. Until next time, keep your eyes open. That beat-up old car at the local meet might just be worth millions.